This is Doug, and welcome to the Practicing Accountant podcast. Today, our topic is about staying informed. Now, I know it is hard during a busy day of serving clients and taking care of staff and organizing resources to find time to read or to keep up on your own industry, let alone your clients' industries and all the other things you're trying to keep up on. However, staying informed is one of the tricks to being successful in business, especially when you're in an industry that is changing as much as accounting. Today, we talk about staying informed here on the podcast. We hope you enjoy. I know there are a lot of people that are really wound up right now. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know if it's like holiday stress, the election, or what, but there's just a lot of pent up stuff I've noticed. A lot of angry people.
Oh, angry. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. They're dramatic and they're all kind of, I don't know, feels like they're on edge or something.
I feel I feel a bit different because I was
Oh,
just telling you I
yeah.
went to the North Pole today,
You
which
went to
is
one of the happiest places on earth.
yeah, for people listening, the North Pole is this place in Colorado that's like this little winter wonderland that operates year round. Which I don't know why anyone would visit the North Pole in June to see Santa, which is weird to me, but they have rides and things. So everyone is pretty damn cheery at that today. So I feel the Christmas energy.
I should have gone with you. That's what I
Yeah.
should have. I should spend more time like in North Pole and but it's just this time of year a lot of stress pops out, and I think because we just rolled out of Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
because we just rolled out of I have very high empathy, so I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an empath or something mystical, but I can sense when there's stuff going on with my clients or the people I work with and or around, and there's just a holiday tension. Let's just call it holiday tension.
Yeah. It's busy.
Like,
There's a lot to get done, and all the events for the year are basically packed into these 3 weeks here.
yeah. And then
Or four
January
weeks.
comes
Yeah.
and everything shuts down. Everyone goes away. There's no holidays. I mean, there's busy season kicking off, which is usually slow to start anyway.
Yeah.
So I this needs what I love? I love when they would do holiday parties in January
Mm.
rather than December.
Yeah.
I
I like
mean,
that.
it's still called a holiday party. I mean, it's close enough. Or just call it a New Year party or a January party. I don't care. But I loved when they did that because there was never I can't make it because I'm going to 4 other parties that night.
Right.
It was like, yeah, we're not doing anything. In fact, that's the only thing on the calendar this month.
Yep. Yep. 'Cause
Taxes and books.
January's miserable. All the lights are gone, the spirit's gone, and it's just cold. And you're waiting for tax
So
season to
leave
show
it
up.
up. Leave it up for February. Just don't take
Yeah,
it down in January.
that feels weird.
Do you have a rule on when things come down?
Like January 1st, right after I tear it all down.
So you don't mess around. There's no
Nope.
giving
Nope.
it a little bit extra time. Today, I have an article which was really just a summary of a conversation that uh, Barry Melancon, who was the head of AICPA and everything forever, is stepping down December 31st, and after 30 years or so of being in his role, this is a big deal for the
Yeah.
profession. His leadership has been really driving this profession for a long time, and it's a changing of the guard. I'm not going to say the guy coming in isn't going to be great, but got big shoes to fill certainly, and a very very crazy time to be taking charge of something.
Yeah, you bet.
But there was a couple of things in a speech that he gave in New York. I think this was last week that I thought were worthy of conversation here. So I'm just going to read for a minute and just kind of let it sit. So Barry Melancon feels there is an important and definite need that small firms are filling. It's good to hear. But he suggests that small practices would be better positioned for the future if they concentrated on developing a specialization in a niche. Well, that's a good idea.
Interesting.
We should talk about niches more here.
I know.
To do this, they should decide on their business model, who their market is, what they feel they could do better than anyone else or at least excel at, examine what their clients' needs are and what the market would value. Now, I got to pause there and say sounds very similar to the concept of the hedgehog, which was popularized in Jim Collins's Good to Great book, where there's an intersection of what you can make money at, what you can be great at, and what can people need. I'll continue here. They, small firms, should also recognize who they could partner with when a client requires services beyond their expertise. Wow.
I feel like we've mentioned that before too.
Man. He suggested that a small firm can no longer be all things to all clients, as many have been in the past through to the present. So I love hearing a lot of that, mostly because you and I have spent, how many episodes of this podcast have we done?
40. This should be 43, I think.
43 episodes, and all of which have been focused on smaller firms, which could be anywhere from one to a half a dozen to a dozen, but small. And a lot of our conversation has been around capacity and pricing and intention and profit, and I just love when a voice like this, not to say that you and I have had an original thought. A lot of the things that we come up with, actually, I take that back. We have had some original thoughts. Niche working is an original thought that we've had. The one in, one out concept is an original thought that we've had. Some of the ways in which you build capacity. The co-firming wasn't necessarily an original thought, but it is something that you and I both have seen. You've experienced recently, and I think it might be a good discussion to have here today is a little bit about what you've recently experienced.
Yep.
But it's something that's definitely in the very much the early. I don't even think it's in the early adopter stage. I think it's in that very first wave of the innovation bell curve. But it's just great to hear the reinforcement for more people to hear it.
Yep.
And to hear that you should niche, to hear that you should identify your ideal client or market, to hear that you should be focused on what you can really drive expertise in being, to hear that, understand what your clients, your niche really needs from you, to hear that you could partner with another firm, and instead of you being the people pleaser who does anything your clients ask of you, right or wrong, good or bad, quality or not, that you should be partnering with others and creating an experience for your firms where they do have solutions, just not all of them done by you.
Right. Yep.
And not being all things to all clients. I mean, that is the people pleaser right there that you and I both hate and both have worked to identify for audiences that we need to manage that.
Yep. I agree.
So I share this because it was self-affirming for you and I, right? But it's also self-affirming for our audience, or affirming for our audience. I think it's important that they understand that this is a real opportunity. The numbers were crazy, and he threw some out. Possibly 15,000 practices, accounting practices, with not more than a half a dozen people.
Wow.
And I think that number's low, because this is coming from the AICPA.
Right.
So their data
is CPAs only.
Right. So their data is probably being fueled by either where a CPA is,
right,
or not, is the bigger question, because I think that there's probably a lot more than that, less than a half a dozen people that are popping up, and just the volume in which we're seeing them pop up. Both you and I were experiencing that and seeing folks step into this and taking their chances in entrepreneurship as a accountant of some form.
Yeah, both EAs, uncredentialed bookkeepers. I mean, this, of course, he's talking about this through the lens of the CPA, but this applies to everybody in accounting, bookkeepers included, CFOs that probably weren't calculated in that number. So yeah, I bet you're right. It's pretty low.
So anyway, I think what I love about it is again, it creates some credibility for our message. I think it creates opportunity for folks who read this, who see it, who put some intention or execution behind it. And really it comes down to implementation, which I think is something that you and I are working to to develop for folks, in helping them do a lot of these things,
Yep.
telling them the answers, showing them what needs to be done. I mean, here it is, clearly what would be a roadmap for potential success, and then taking that step of how do I do that now?
Right.
What does that look like now?
Yep.
Something that you and I are working on. And I think I'd stop there and say, I think, regardless of whether you're a CPA, if you're just, you just picked up accounting, if you got your degree, but not your certification, or if you've completely changed careers and just found you had a knack for numbers and detail and became an accountant or a bookkeeper or a tax preparer, whatever, stay in front, read about your industry, like create space every day to read the articles, whether it's Accounting Today or CPA Advisor or Inside Public Accounting, but like be familiar with what's going on in the industry. And a lot of those things are pointed at CPAs because they partner with AICP or whatever, but there's a ton available, not just through Facebook groups, not just through, those small little, mostly sales driven groups, but get out there and read some of this stuff and pay attention to this industry, because it is going crazy right now. I mean, it's such an exciting time to be a part of this industry, to see what it's doing, to just be a part of this growth. So, what I do, right or wrong, is I sign up for 2 or 3 newsletters. Each morning it arrives in my inbox by 7 a.m. or 6 a.m., depending on how much in front of it they are. And it only takes 10 minutes, and I'm old school. So here's how meticulous I am. So I will open the article on the internet. I will copy the article into an email that I will then print, and then I will put it over here on the side of my desk, and I will tuck it in my bag, and I will take it home, and then that's my reading for either later tonight or tomorrow morning.
That is efficient.
Right. That's why I don't spend a lot of time talking about efficiency, because I got a mirror, and it would probably say that I'm not doing some things the way I should, but it's just that's my habit. But I have like it's probably 8-foot tall stack of printed paper over here. That's just stuff that I read and print out and then put onto the pile, and I'm trying to see how high I can get it, I think. But I don't even know why I save them, other than, maybe someday I'll go through and organize them, and I have no idea. I have no idea why I save them, I'll be honest.
Yeah, looks good.
But it's
cool.
But it's right. Oh, he's well read, right? Yeah. That's why I have all the books behind me. I don't actually read them. I just put them back there to make it look like I read a lot. I do read a lot, but that practice of just staying not only on your clients' industries, not only on your billable time, but on just creating space to know about your profession, and not just software. Because for whatever reason, like every accountant I bump into, all they want to do is talk about software. Like, have you gotten this app? Have you used this software? Have you used this module? Have you bolted this on? Have you seen how these integrate? Like, I get it. Like, that's cool. But there's more to it than just software. And software is about being efficient and being effective and finding the cheapest way to do it. I get it.
Well, we're accountants. We're dorks. We like softwares and efficiencies.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was one of the better realizations I ever made, was being a nerd is a good thing. Because I was a nerd when nerds weren't cool. Like now nerds are like, I mean, Marvel movies are the best movies of all time, and comic book guys, and Star Wars is not to say it wasn't legitimate back then, but it's much more common now to watch a show like that or be a fan of those things. But when I was in middle school and elementary school, it wasn't cool to like some of that stuff.
Yeah, I can see that. I still
just used to being a nerd.
I still can't get behind the superhero.
So what do you call it? So if you're a nerd on what? So you like just the flavor of nerd, right?
Oh, like you're a dork, maybe.
Yeah. That's good. Coach Dork. That's going to be my new nickname on the show, Coach Dork.
Your kids will love that one.
I got another thing. There's another thing that came out this week, actually, that I think would be good for listeners or whoever does. So each year, Accounting Today does their list of top 100 influential people, and it's just a hodgepodge of regulators, firm leaders, managing partners, consultants of various kinds, and then technology, and just a long list, Colorado or state society leaders. But but they recognize them, and that that's their thing. That's what they want to get, and they do. But they ask them questions sometimes, which I find very interesting. And here's where AI comes into this. So
Mm.
there's this long, like 12-page article of all the things that we need to be worried about in the future in accounting. And so I took that long list, I dumped it into AI, and I said, summarize this. And it did, down to basically 4 pages, or no, 3 pages. And then it just gives you nice bullet points. Some of the challenges in here are insufficient value proposition, what the firm actually offers to clients, succession planning, digital threats like AI, paralysis from aging leadership, not evolving their business model, digital transformation, evolution and pace of change, right people, private equity, talent and AI, technology again, PE again, technology again. Maybe we should be software nerds after reading this, right?
I know.
It's kind of making me look bad here now. AI, tax regulations, of course, coming from the tax regulator, talent, upskilling, working conditions in large firms. I bet you can guess who that came from. That came from Blake. Private equity, trust. That's a unique one. And then AI again. So AI apparently is going to be the most common message as far as the challenge. So when you read that, like, what do you do then, right? Like, for a bookkeeper or an accountant to read that AI is our biggest challenge, do they just wait? Like, let's just wait and see what happens. Do they get in front of it? Do they educate themselves? Do they take classes, read books, get ahead of this? But I think without, go ahead.
I don't think there's really anything to do other than stay informed of current opportunities of software, threats that it might pose. A new AI tax preparation software that comes out for the masses. That might be something to pay attention to if it comes out, when and if it comes out. But yeah, just stay informed, stay on top of it. To the same point you made about this article, be aware of what's happening in the industry.
Like, I think that's why you and I are able to have these conversations. Is we stay informed. Like, we're able to talk about the things that other folks just don't have the time. I mean, why else would you have a podcast, right? You're informed of things that you're sharing with an audience that may not be informed,
Right.
or may not have the time to be informed, and hence, coming here and being in a place where, you've got me, the dork, that's reading
Sorry about
reading newsletters every morning on accounting industry challenges, is able to highlight some things, and with my clients, I'm on the front lines of all this stuff, because I'm going through it, with every one of my clients in a different form, whether they're in a big firm, a small firm, a medium firm, on their own, solopreneur, in industry. Like, I get to be informed on the front lines, and that's actually one of my core values. I don't know if you knew that or not, but one of my core values is Gonzo. And Gonzo is the name of Hunter, or the nickname for Hunter Thompson, who was a writer. And he believed that in order to write about something, you had to experience it yourself. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here, is I'm able to speak about what's going on in accounting, because I'm on the front lines.
Right.
I'm experiencing it through my clients, every day. So I can point to these things. So I there's one thing, and maybe we'll wrap up, but I mentioned co-firming.
Yeah.
And I mentioned you had an experience recently of how that might look. Would you share a little bit of that?
Yeah, you bet. So we, right now, I think I mentioned recently that about 90 to 95% of our leads come from this co-firming concept, where we first niched. We only provide one service for a pretty particular type of client, and we work with other firms that are complementary to us and not competitive. And so they generally, the firms that we work with are firms that have a ton of leads coming in. They're advertising a lot, or they're just well known. And so they pass us things that aren't the right fit for them, and we actually do a referral fee for that, and so it works out for everybody. And I just had another meeting with another firm to set that up, just a tax repair locally here, and he had never heard of the concept and was excited about it. So it's just not something that's very common, and particularly if you're a generalist, it's not going to happen. And most accountants, I would say, are generalists now. I'd love a breakdown of who niches and who doesn't, whether that's by service or by type of client or whatever. But it's a great concept. It works well if you have, kind of separate skill sets, separate services. So it's been a huge plus.
Well, the first thing that I like about your story is that you're intentional about having some conversations that would help both you and them. Second of all, I love the fact that there's a fee attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, this is nice, and we're going to do each other a solid, but we're also in business, and why wouldn't we want to, create some value here for each of us, not just in, having someone to send our clients to, but in actually putting money in both of our pockets.
Right.
Yep. And the third thing, you're having multiple conversations about it. So I love all that. There was one thing I wanted to read out of this article that was, I thought, goofy, or at least talking out of both sides of his mouth.
The generalist expert.
Yes, the generalist expert. Like how can you be a generalist expert like that?
I laughed at that too. Yeah.
I think maybe you could find a way to use those words to create a sense to them, but a generalist expert to me just doesn't quite. It's like it's inconsistent. It's an oxymoron. It just doesn't ring true for me. Well, thanks for sharing that story, and I think that's something that we promoted. Last week, even I think in our newsletter on the emails, it was something that we brought up and really wanted to encourage our listeners or readers to explore, is just partnering with other firms, and instead of trying to be the one size fits all, being the one size that fits perfectly, and then anything else you share.
Yeah. And the clients really appreciate that candor as well.
Right. I don't do that.
I had a client or a lead ask if we worked with Bitcoin mining, and no, we don't. I have no idea what the hell we're doing with that. What that even looks like. So I said no, and I don't have a referral, and I'm sorry, but if you find somebody, I would love to know a name that I can refer, because he's like the third guy that's asked about that. Interestingly, but it would be a giant disservice to take on that client and try to learn it and be totally inefficient at it and maybe do it wrong, and that's just not serving very well. So
I had two in recent memory. One, a law firm wanted me to work with like their CFO and their VP of something or other, finance, and then they're like, hey, but would you mind just restructuring our accounting department while you're here? And I'm like, and there was a piece of me, that people pleaser, spoke up and was like, hell yeah, let's do that too. Why not? I can do that. I can figure it out. It's not that hard. I work with accountants all day long. I can structure a department. You've been coaching people on how to do it.
Right.
And I said, shut up. No, I can't do that. That's not something you can find better resources for that, people better than me. And I set up some referrals, and I don't know if it actually turned into something or not yet, but, and then the other one's just another version of it. But yeah, it feels good just to say like, no, I don't do that.
Yeah.
Right. Just like, no, I don't want to, or I don't, it's not my thing.
And
that's all I got.
Yeah. Those clients actually, they really appreciate a referral too. To always get a nice thank you note for a good referral from someone that we never even worked with, or not a note, an email, or reply, but something. Yeah. All right.
That's all I got today.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Cheers.
See ya.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Practicing Accountant Podcast. We hope from it that you maybe are inspired to sign up for a newsletter, or like me, print something off and read it tomorrow or tonight, just to stay on top of our industry and pay attention to what's changing. A lot of the great ideas that we talk about here on the podcast come from being informed as to the industry. something that's within your own reach. And so maybe some homework for you. Sign up for a newsletter, whether it be Accounting Today or Inside Accounting or CPA Advisor or whatever it might be. All of those things are pointed at CPAs. However, even if you're not, if you're just an accountant or bookkeeper who's just in this industry and want to stay on top of it, I still implore and encourage you to sign up for one of those newsletters to stay informed. Learn more about us at www.thepracticingaccountant.com. Please share and like this episode of the Practicing Accountant podcast. And as always, we thank you very much for watching. Cheers.